They call him Seatin, the man of legends.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Rift for Beginners Episode 1. In this video I'm going to be covering both server selection and character creation, two parts of the game that are fairly important and you want to know a lot of stuff. I'm going to try and do it as fast as possible with giving you the most information, so let's jump right into it. So when you initially open up Rift for the first time, you'll be greeted with this lovely shard select menu. But unlike myself here, you won't have any characters on any shards. My personal recommendation would be to go on to the highest population PvE shard, which is player versus environment. If you go onto a PvP shard, it's likely when you actually do get out into the open world that there are going to be a lot of players who are going to repeatedly gank you, and they're probably higher level. So the way that also server transfers work in Rift is you can transfer to any server within your region with just a 1 week cooldown. So my initial advice would be start off on a high population PvE server, and then if you want to do PvP at a later date, then you can go to a PvP server. If you're a hardcore role player, then there are always role-playing servers, but those don't seem to be too bustling at the moment, so I'd probably suggest avoiding those. Anyway, so I'm just going to use Zavio here, which is actually the shard I play on, as an example, and then we're going to go on to the character creation. So in the game there are two factions. There are the Guardians and the Defiants. Now, it does not really matter which faction you choose. It won't have too much of an impact on your gameplay, apart from from level 1 to 50, because that will sort of determine the path in which you go and sort of the various zones you quest in. But when you get to about level 30, they tend to sort of cross over. In regards to endgame, because I know a lot of people look towards that when they're making their character, it does not matter at all which faction you are, really, unless you're on sort of a PvP server. I mean, there are options to change your faction at any time with the cost of credits, unfortunately. I believe it costs about the equivalent to just over £5 to change your faction. So, but, at endgame there is cross-faction raiding, guilds, gameplay. Pretty much everything you do at endgame is cross-faction. There's even mercenary systems, so you get cross-faction war fronts, and it all gets it's all pretty integrated. There's no real sort of conflict between the two, so it genuinely doesn't matter. But for the purpose of this video, we'll go Guardian. That's my favorite faction. So you have 3 races that you can choose from in each faction. So with Guardians, it's human, high elves, and dwarves. They each have racial abilities which do various stuff and are mainly used outside of combat. So humans they can boost everybody's run speed by 30% for the next 10 seconds, but that can only be used outside of combat. So it doesn't really have too much of a use apart from when you're running back or corpse running and maybe want the party to run a bit faster. But then again, it is in all honesty pretty useless, and you get a tiny bit of death resistance, which won't really have an impact on your survivability at all throughout the game. High Elf, which is the race I suggest you do pick if you're going Guardian. You get Angelic Flight, which means you can fly towards a selected area, and it cannot be used in combat. This is actually just an insane ability for something you'll learn about later in the game, which is called artifact hunting, when you need to reach sort of high or low places just to get to artifacts and collect them. And finally the dwarf one, which is basically you get a free drink every 10 minutes, which in all honesty pretty worthless as well, because drinks are just so cheap. So I really suggest going for a high elf of some sort. So in regards to your class, there are 4 classes in the game: warrior, cleric, mage, and rogue. Warriors, they can do 3 out of 4 things each class. So the 4 roles in total: there is tank, there is damage, there is support, and there is healer. So every one of the classes can do 3 out of 4 of those things. In the expansion next year, which takes us to the plane of water, just bringing you guys ahead a bit, every class will be able to do everything. So they're adding in warrior healers, cleric support, rogue healers, and mage tank. I know what you're thinking, it sounds pretty crazy. So we're going to see how they pull that off, etc. can't say anything for now, but for now, you know, it tells you which one you want to do. So figure out what you like doing and go with that. So the next one, I'm going to go with Cleric, for example. So you'll see these builds here. These builds actually none of them are a permanent decision. They won't make any effect on your future gameplay. They're kind of like cookie cutters, just to get you started out in the game and put you on the right track, instead of, you know, looking through soul trees for hours on end trying to figure out, you know, what to do. So I'm just going to click Thunderer. Once again, this decision is nothing permanent. You can change it at any time. And then you've got the character customization. Not going to go too much into this. You know, you can change pretty much everything about your character: eye color, face size, shape, eyes, ears, nose, skin color, whatever you want, you can change it. So you can make up your own name. I'm far too lazy to do that, so I'm just going to go random and go Coverley or Colvey. Let's go on next. So that is it for the character creation, guys. Then you'll go into cinematic, and then you are into the open world. So that concludes episode 1. I'll be back in episode 2 to talk about soul trees and how they work, and also, you know, what the cookie cutter build does for you. Stay tuned, guys.